Welcome to Pain to Power. I am your host, Maria, also known as Brown Girl Interrupting. And this is the show where we are taking our struggles and turning them into our strengths and healing in community. And so today, in my reflection, I actually have been on a little bit of my own healing journey, which I'm always sharing with you all as my audience and supporters throughout this process. And I came across a book that I'm rereading. So I first got this book because I honestly borrowed it from someone. I borrowed it from someone whom I thought I was going to be on a journey with for a while. And the book is called The Alchemist, which many of you may know, by Paulo Coelho. And it is really about the journey of finding our truth. At the time, when I was reading it the first time 3 years ago, I thought I had found some truth, and I thought I found the person I was living the truth with. However, life changes, patterns change, and sometimes the unexpected happens and we have to shift and pivot. And I shifted and pivoted. But what I didn't do is return the book. So I still have it. And today I was reading it and I came up with this quote. And I think it's so important because the quote itself is talking about this importance of understanding how we shift in life. And I know it's about to come up, so I want to share it with you as we're thinking about this quote, which is, when someone makes a decision, he is really diving into a strong current that will carry him to other places he had never dreamed of before when you first made that decision. So this quote and reading it today as a reread of The Alchemist reminded me that at the time I thought I was on a path and I thought I was made a decision, but healing is also a decision. And these last few months and weeks, I've been making another decision to heal. And in that healing, I started rereading the book and came to this thinking about how I am constantly trying to find new ways to discover and understand myself. So like I said, healing is a decision, and it's the same decision that all of my guests are making as they come on this show. And today I'm super excited to talk to my guest who has made the decision as an artist to speak honestly on the challenges of mental health and empowerment and talk about his own reflection. So JP, or Jermel Powell, fondly known as Aloneatiq, is a thought-provoking spoken word artist. He's performed around the country and internationally, sharing his gifts, and he skillfully uses multiple double entendres and masterfully crafts poetry that connects, excites, and invokes a deeper understanding of human nature in his wordplay as poet. But today, he's also joining us not just as an artist, but as an advocate for mental health and the power of speaking on the pain to empower both himself and his audience. So please join me in welcoming JP to the scene.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for being here. It is really quite a gift to have you as a guest on the show.
Yeah, humbly. Also, my pleasure.
So JP, I usually ask people how their day is, but I feel like today is, and just thinking, I'm looking at your shirt, and that's it, right? God has a plan. I had a plan, but God had a better one, and I love it because I
Yeah.
think that connects directly with what I was saying as to open us up here. But I'm wondering, how's your heart today?
Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that because it's more than the stock. How you doing? Fine. Like we're not robots. Like
Right.
let me think about it. My heart is well. My heart is in a good place currently, as far as a good balance of life balance. It was a good weekend specifically, like just having basically Friday night and Saturday afternoon to Sunday, just having wins, positive things occur. So it's not even like I have to search for the thing to be grateful, be happy about. Is like moments and events and all that. So yeah, my heart is in a good place right now.
That's a beautiful thing, and I love that you said it right. You didn't have to search for the joy, right? And the moments, they just were there. That's a great thing to have on this journey. And, whenever my guests come on, I always ask them because I think understanding our relationship between pain and power is so important. But when you think about this idea of pain, turning pain into power, what does that mean for you personally?
On the last part, please, the relationship between.
Oh, sorry. I know I think there's a bit of a technical lag, so we might have some moments where we're technically trying to figure it out. But JP, thanks for staying with me. So, what is your relationship when you think about pain to power?
I only got one. I'm sorry. I heard pain this time, so we're halfway there. Relationship between. I'm just waiting for the.
So we're gonna try a new way. I'm gonna type this in here so
Okay.
you have it.
Okay.
But I want to
All
know,
right. All
in
right.
terms of your own journey of what is your relationship between turning your pain into power?
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. Basically, very. Although I'm, overall, this has been a very, very abundant, very blessed life. There are definitely challenges of all kinds. So the pain from from breakup to personal challenges to loss in the family to except to not achieving a goal I thought I would make. And so the thing about the pain part or the setback is finding that lesson, finding the opportunity to adjust to improve, and making sure to get the other side of that thing. So not to let the pain or the negative or the setback just make me quit, but make sure to get my kind of avenge the turmoil or whatever. Again, turn it into a lesson that is applied, helps make me stronger, helps move the path forward. Maybe it was from a God in a God situation, a religious situation, like moving me to a new path or redirecting my path, excuse me, moving me away from what I thought was maybe the right thing, but it was not.
I love that. That's so powerful in terms of thinking about like you took it as lessons, right? Like you took a takeaway of how you can grow, which is so important in that resilience of again recognizing that pain is going to come no matter what, but you have the tools and the ways to move through it, and that's a beautiful thing. And you are you're in the DMV right now, but you're not a DMV native. You actually grew up in North Carolina, right? And I'd love to know a little bit more just about, and you got a little bit of that Southern drawl still. Do people point that out?
Yeah. Yeah, occasionally, because I guess it kicks in, and and then other points it's not a big deal and all that. So I was actually the story is even wider than that. I was actually born in excuse me, California. There for 8 years or so, 7 years, then Minnesota for about 6 years, and then North Carolina. So that was high school. So instead of telling that story every single time that I'm meeting somebody and things like that, I just reference that I consider myself raised in North Carolina because that was my high school. Call that the formidable years and all that. Um, moved a few more times for undergrad, grad school, and then just my folks reside in Arizona, and I was there for a very long time. I actually thought that I would be there, and then it made sense to to head out this way since 2016. So what that means, and as far as shaping, and things like that, I just now this year hit a full 8 years, 8 years plus in Maryland, and that's the most I've been in any one place. I know I had said 8, but it was like just like 7 and 11 months as far as California, and I was a baby. So this is the longest that I've really gotten to settle down somewhere. I've gotten used to going to a new location and kind of finding my, planting my flag or just finding my way in there. And that was no different with Maryland and the poetry community. But yeah, for sure, that's one thing that kind of helped me, be adaptable. I think that might be part of the reason that I do cherish true friendships and true relationships that have stood the test of time, that have foundation, don't dissolve over the slightest of things, and things like that. So the ones that are truly, everybody's got each of their everyone in the team, best interest in mind. Definitely I'm a fan of that and gravitate towards that as well.
I love that. That's a beautiful thing to find that in, like you said, right? You settled right into this one place without moving around as much. And I mean, so there's movement and there's change in where you are, but tell me a little bit about also just even in terms of just your own personality and like in all of this, right? Like what is what are some of those core pieces of you as a young child that stay even with you now?
Right. I think whether it's the how do I, kind of find my acceptance in in that school dynamic, to um, to just yeah, maybe the moving around piece, but definitely finding humor and wit. Like um, and even also, it seems like some of the kids that are more high performing, like they might just get bored a little bit. So joking around and playing around in the class environment is kind of something that is done. But that was basically, kind of the energy I was on. So pretty rather high energy, younger, in the sports. Again, love to crack jokes, love to make people, excuse me, smile, love to make people better. So I was like a
Mm.
facilitator. Even like, as far as sports, I wasn't necessarily trying to be I didn't want the spotlight. And it was more on like, yeah, let me do my part or whatever. So it was a combination of playing, playing the background somewhat, but also, facilitating. Um, things like that. So those are qualities that I know I have these days that spawn from that, but also the need to realization that in these adult years I really do have to step into a leadership role. I mean, so clearly I know, like I'm not I don't suffocate space because of years of not needing that, but there are times that I do need to be more assertive, and definitely have worked on that, and more, again, in these recent years, in these adult years, and that was for sure a product of the upbringing, um, as was me shifting more to be a little bit or quite a bit more introverted. So I
Mm.
have, when desired, the ability and and all that to command a room and things like that, but I don't need that, and I can't overdo it. I will wear out. So I think that was like a shift from, I grew up one way, and then you know uh, decided decided and needed to to tone that back a little bit and be more deliberate. So I actually would say I'm more of an ambivert at this, because I will flip flop based on
Mhm.
the situation, the day, etc.
I love that evolution of self that and your like the words you use, suffocating space. That's so powerful. Um, and I mean, I think like it paints that picture of like how it is to create space for others, right? Like that, I really appreciated that. And you have a way with words, clearly, right? So was your humor and wit like is that part of also? Because I feel like when I hear your poetry, it seems to play into it. Do you feel like your writing kind of
Mhm.
stemmed from some of that?
Yes, 1000%. So I mean, as far as, so unlike a lot of my poet peers started, as like middle school, if not elementary school, right? Been doing it for a long time. As far as me really specifically writing poetry and performing it, that was 15 years ago, 2010. Um, so those were the years where I was figuring out my voice and style and things like that. So basically, I always gravitated towards intricacy, and again the double entendres, and taking a word and repurposing it, saying it, taking advantage of my accent to make it bend it into a different word, things like that. So in order to not only, so I mean, and there's plenty of there's an audience that is here for all of that, but in order to reach more of the broader audience, let's get that one liner, let's get that, that quick quip, let's get, let's, humor always works, to get somebody engaged and involved. So just definitely using that piece of, kind of my toolbox, and yeah, put it in a poetry form, and just find that way to mesh all of it and make it seem seamless, and that way everybody's getting something, and
Mm.
somebody's getting all of it. So that's pretty much
I love that. And I
that's
like
pretty
that
much
very
what that does.
deliberate effort, right? To get your audience all engaged. And that's so important, right? There's the structure of poetry, there's the like that process of poetry, but then there's also what it does for you. So as a writer, what did writing do for you personally when you started to express yourself and share it with others?
Yes, it was a creative outlet, um, but I think even before that, it was a emotional outlet. I think that might have been a lot of the motivation for those early years. I think that was the thing, the motivator that said, "Oh, let me actually be, you know, brave/crazy enough to sign up on an open mic, walk up on that stage, and share these, and try to share some pieces." I feel like it was like, no, you kind of need to. Like, it's the alternative, as far as the lack of action or the other actions have not been working. We got to try something else. So like, yeah, just the writing was the opportunity to get the thoughts out, not just keep things, packed in. And the writing itself helped me really, you can put something down and make that edit. So it's like, no, I don't have to have all the answers right at that moment, but writing is helping me get there, helping me with understanding, and things like that. Fortunately for me, it was being paired with therapy. This was not a situation where I was trying to solve everything myself. My struggle was how long it took me to identify. And so once we got there, yeah, again, the writing is, I'd say, first the emotional outlet, and now the creative outlet. The work-life balance. When I say that, I mean poetry. After working, in the IT type of challenges that I deal with, we need to kind of shift from, they say, is it right brain or left brain, but one of those types to the other, as far as, 1 + 1 = what, to what is the meaning of, what I mean,
Right.
type of energy. So
But it's so important, right, to have the balance, that balance of both of who you are, just like being an ambivert, right? Like this balance of self is so key to our development. But you said that this journey has been a long one, and I know that when I brought you on here and when we had our conversation, we talked about mental health and your own understanding of your mental health and what you knew about yourself and started to understand about yourself. Tell me a little bit about that journey for you in just discovery of yourself.
okay, so the mental health journey, and then discovering me along the way. Um, so it was college. It was sophomore year of college, where something was off. All of a sudden, I really don't have the origin other than eventually tracing it back there. But energy was low, concentration was terrible, irritability was high, but couldn't sleep. So didn't sleep well, but then awake and dragging all day. Again, this is Florida A&M University computer science program. Like, it's a challenging program, and I'm over here like losing days of productivity, and not knowing why, and not really being able to play catch up, and tests, like, this test is not about to go well because I'm not retaining, and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was 2003, and then I survived and still managed to graduate, and then went to a grad school program, and it was 2006 where I actually finally, I guess that was the first time somebody was even tying this to, well, maybe you should see, see it, see therapy. try to utilize that as an option. It was that conversation what finally identified 2003. So that's 3 years of I don't know what's going on, and I don't know what to do about it. Then 2006, at least I know a little bit of what's going on and have some tools of what to do about it. And basically, for the next 14 years, I was better than I was, but still a long way to go. And you fast forward to 2020, and basically every other situation when my mood was bad, something wasn't going right, like recession and recession. That was enough to make a lot of things difficult. But 2020, 2019, Thanksgiving, everything's going well, settled, families here, Thanksgiving holiday, and I am out of it. Terrible weekend. All of December ended up also being, thrown off. And so somewhere along the lines that said, okay, let's go to psychiatrist. And they did, their diagnosis, and that's where they suggested bipolar 2. And based on years and years of struggling with things, I didn't fight that. There was no hesitation. There was no, I'm too proud for nothing. It was no, what do we do? What can we do about it? And even these days, they're not even really saying for sure it's this. It's what are like again, what do we do? What are we taking, to treat things? Unfortunately, the medication decision for one is one of those with very low side effects, and two, it got right to significantly improving. I still have my moments, but they're way more manageable and way less frequent. Um, so that's, I guess, yeah, that's the mental health history itself. That dealing with this both diagnosed and treated, and undiagnosed and untreated, that takes a special type of individual to be willing to deal with me, and that's perfectly understandable and fair. But it's like, it's affected relationships. It's good for one, some people appreciate my vulnerability and transparency, and I guess it helps with, all around trustworthiness. But also it can be a lot. It can definitely expose somebody who's trying to always solve other people's problems. You can't really do that with me, and it can be frustrating for them. So yeah, it's both knowing, learning me and learning the things that make me tick, and then also being, upfront with other people and trying to give them a cheat code of some sort. It's like, here are some things you don't have to necessarily cross the bridge on. I already got it figured out, whether they, take that or not.
That's a really honest space to begin relationships and even to sustain them, right? Like, because that vulnerability of, I know me, I know what I need, I know what I don't need, is a powerful place
Yeah.
to be. But also, I guess then you're weeding out who can and can't handle that, which is powerful and important. So for you, what was it like to finally really to know this about yourself in your own understanding of just recognizing your wholeness?
uh Fantastic question. I really feel like that first, I remember a little bit about being in that particular, office and having that conversation, but relief, because again, I think if it's a possibility if I was trying to deal with this at a younger age and there was more pride involved, then maybe there was more resistance. But after years, almost arguably, probably decades, if it wasn't 20 years, it was about 19, 18, 19. So finally having a very likely solution, an understanding of what the gap was, why one thing again, why therapy was enough, but I'm sorry, better, but not enough, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So that was relief first and foremost. Um, it also was a form of validation. The symptoms again have me not performing, not focused, not, not showing up as what are the expectations, the education I've had, the opportunities that have been provided for me. Um, so that was being confused as lazy, interpreted as lazy, interpreted as lack of concern. If you cared more, then you get it done. If you worked harder, you get it done. Wake up early, stay late, you get it done. Set the alarm for 6 every day for 3 weeks, and then your body will get used to it. And it's like, sure, somebody, probably those habits work for some people, but certain things just do not work for certain people. And there's a combination of, I don't know. There was not a reason. There was not a strong reason that it should have, quote unquote, why did it take this long? Like, I understand why it was a while to really get it, but also the reality is some of my elders in my community. Um, Mental health is, not that's not we're not even
Mhm.
considering that. So it is, suck it up, power through it, and all that type of stuff. And even coming back to, when I let people know what the situation is, one of the main reasons is because I cannot mask it. I can do my absolute best. I put up with a lot. I have a very strong, shell and things like that, but it's not impervious. You know what I mean? And so we need to address the reality of the situation, versus just thinking I'm always hide it and I'm gonna always present, forward facing this, oh, I'm good, even when I'm not.
I really appreciate that, JP. Like the honesty and vulnerability of everything you shared. And I think also in, when you're saying that, I think almost of this idea of like how we don't recognize structures that impact people that are beyond just what everyone else's access is, right? Like, so even like this bootstrap theory of like mental health, right? Like that you just pick yourself up and you got it, like you'll solve it, take the medicine, go to the therapist, and that's it, right? But like what you said through your validation is understanding that, like, no, like this is not the same as everything else, right? Like, and this does not get resolved the same way. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Um, and I mean, and it sounds like obviously that in addition to that, you also have community pushback, and you've got the fact that you're a guy. I mean, you're a guy. And I think men speaking on mental health is always something that is not easy or accepted as with so much grace, right? What has that been like for you in your own journey?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's again where poetry has stepped in. Poetry is a wonderful mythical land where you get to be heard, you get to express and be vulnerable. You get to A black man gets to say, "Hey, everything isn't all good," and you get a little bit more. You still don't, you don't get to go up there for 15 minutes and talk about that, but you at least get three, and that's more than I can say, about a lot of spaces, in quote unquote the real world. So there's one and two. The for I don't I really couldn't fully tell you why, but it's not. I have phobias, I have fears, I have shortcomings. Being honest about this is not one of them, and knowing uh, that I know that this is a very big and eye opener and a catalyst for a lot of other people. I'm very, very willing to do that, and be one of those voices. And then somebody else speaks up on it, or somebody else has their version of the story. And now we've opened up the door for the other person who either didn't know it or didn't want to acknowledge it. So even, bipolar 2 specifically, how many people have reached out to me on the side, talked about, specifically a male figure on their family, or even I got, somebody, one of my friends letting me know that they just got the diagnosis themselves, right? And we can have that conversation. I'm the right person to get info because I'm going to give you everything I have, and then I'm going to tell you that I don't have it all figured out. So go, find another source. Go talk to that professional. But I share what I know, like, immediately for those. So yeah, the community, and of course, again, it's all about the focus, because everybody's not accepting of that, right? Some people have used it, as ammunition, verbal ammunition. It's there's stigmas behind it. There's assumptions, right? And it's just gotten to the point where I'm like, I got to go find who's for me, and that's
Mm.
how you solve that. Like, and it's easy to do that these ages. Like, the desire to be accepted matters in all facets of life, but it's a little less important. It's a lot less important to me than other times, in my life. So then it's more so, now let me go find who is, versus like getting too hung up on,
Mm.
who's not vibing with me.
But I like that you're able to say that and see that, because that letting go of people and knowing what's healthy for you is also part of a healing, right? And it's part of you protecting yourself. So I love it, because what you just said is you are a leader in this, right? You are leading other men to speak on their mental health. And it's just interesting, because what we started with is you talking about how you didn't feel you were a leader, right? So, I mean, how
Yeah.
has that start? Like, did you even imagine that this would be the place you would lead from?
The leadership coming from, so it's interesting to, so I came up in music, sports, and then music was pretty integral. So choir in elementary school, and getting to that Minnesota, moving to Minnesota, finding a church home. It was actually going to school, and the music teacher was my music teacher, and then I moved to a different city, and the church that I can walk to, she's the musical director. So it's like, oh, of course I'm about to join and sing here, even if that wasn't the school we always went to. So I'm sorry, the church we always went to. So doing that long enough to become one of the soloists and start, so now it's like it's the leader by doing of the choir. Although I was never going to be the, like, that wasn't the, hey, directing, and hey, y'all do this, y'all do that. And I wasn't doing that yet. So now we fast forward to saxophone in high school. I wish I remembered this lady's name, and I wish I could find her, because she thrusted me into leadership. So um, freshman year, I'm just, it's participate in the annual recital. Sophomore year, hey, I'd like you to join the saxophone quartet. Don't worry, we got this guy. He's the senior. He's the lead. And then there's other very talented. I remember that young lady. She was good at like everything, and she was like tenor sax, and I'm alto, and then our and the instructor. Junior year, you would think, oh, maybe, so I was like, the fourth or whatever, maybe I slide up some. Nope, she made me lead saxophone. Didn't tell me until, like a, hey, surprise, like orientation of the first day. So it
Um,
was, she knew what she was doing. She knows, she was like, now if I give you time to think about it, of course you're gonna say, of course you're going to say no. So that was, yeah, baptism by fire, but an amazing experience. I stepped up, did that piece. But again, these were just people seeing the talent, again, talent, opportunity, blessings and all that. And it's like, yeah, go out there, have your hiccups, have your, have your wins accepted, and be like, oh, you can do this, which I, now I can say that, as an adult. And then these days, it's really as simple as, I'm a daughter. I'm a father. Excuse me. I'm not a daughter. I'm a father of a 9-year-old. I have, bills are necessary. Like, now, if I gotta go solve problems instead of waiting for them to be solved. Like, even on the work situation, like sitting back and going through the status quo is gonna get me to a ceiling very quickly. And so the places I'm trying to go, like, I gotta go facilitate it. And what I also that I know about myself is that just can be as simple as go find the help. Not, I gotta navigate and figure all this out as a solo individual, because I can't. I have a limit, like a very palpable limit.
I love that. And I mean, but again, like, you're being honest and clear about what you need, and that sometimes that is outside of you. And God, as a parent, oh my God, the community is huge, right? It takes a village, but it takes a village not just for us, but for not just for the kids. It takes a village for us, right? So I love that. And No Holdbacks TV, welcome. Tasha says, because you moved around so frequently, did writing make you feel that it was your personal sanctuary, that was your permanent home? Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tasha.
Right. I like that. I like that. I like that question. So I guess I would say like more again adult years when writing was more prevalent. And I'm not even again that 2010 wasn't necessarily like I guess I had other creative outlets and and means of expression, but this is by far like the most consistent, healthiest. So yeah, it's like wherever wherever you go, there you are type of situation. Like finding that personal sanctuary is perfect, and finding a way to make the most comfortable out of myself, and then build when it becomes available, and even avoid um, when an environment and situation doesn't make sense, just don't. Just go elsewhere and do something else. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do like that. I wish if I had it in my bag that I was utilizing earlier in life, I'm sure it would have been even more. But I'm grateful that I found my purpose and found that for whatever years that I have had it available.
It's a beautiful thing because I think for so many, having a tool available that we know how to lean into to heal us is huge, right? It's transformational. So we've talked a lot about your poetry, and No Holdback says yes, celebrate all your milestones, definitely, right? Um, we've talked about your poetry, and I think now is the time where we would love to hear a couple of your pieces, which we get to hear today. Um, what are you going to be reading for us?
All right. Um, yes. So first piece, um, yeah, the first piece is basically just, I guess, an appreciation for others for pouring into me. Let's just say that. So it goes. I probably care more about those that don't like me if I didn't find major currency from those that encourage me. So in layman's, I don't really care about those that left my life in the last 3 years. Amen. And hey, man, if I'm lying, I'm flying, and I only really seem to float when I'm writing. See, there's some out there that swear that I think that I'm always right, and that couldn't be further from the truth if it was Tommy or Ghost. Cause see, it's power and how I'm out with my dogs at the function, and we get to arguing, and it might sound like beef, but nah, we was just chopping it up, hashing it out, and I don't fillet way about it. Definitely not enough to let it simmer or boil over. See, off the strength of what these young men meant to me, meant to mentally, I'm way about it. Took their words with a grain of salt, ingrained, and sought to let these younger men mentor me. And this is a true story over 3 years ago. And no, I didn't let any of those three men leave my life. Amen. Now, this poem isn't a story about loss. So the only major pain is how my three eyes stay wide even while I sleep. So I peep the major faces that grace the places that I'm privileged to move in. So even when old make vacancies, new move in. And I'm privileged to say that those who stay paved the way for where I am today. Their presence is a present, and that includes those who I didn't interact with much in the past. So rekindle relationships from the past that join the present. I'm pushing P towards the future because I see error in some of my old ways. I now have a better will, son. Shift in energy, reorder priorities. So accordingly, those who give even the simplest of interest are way more valuable than people who swear that I owe them. Those negative charges I decline because I finally decided the buck stops here. But I'm also realizing that I had it right originally and could have banked on my original basic statement, which is I find major currency from those that encourage me. So thank you to old and new deposits into my emotional bank account. And for those who this applies to, may the church say from your home, amen.
All
That's peace.
right. I love that. I love the the wordplay is so powerful. Like you are really, really good at that in creating the
Thank you.
story. And you also have like this conversational tone, right? Like it's like you're just talking to your audience, right? What makes you choose that style?
I feel like, there, and I'm not, unfortunately, I'm looking to be a much better student, although I'm continuing to be a student of poetry. But there are others who have done that before me, right? And they showed that it's available and works, and is effective, right? And so, whereas shout out to those who gravitate towards a slam style, because that's comfortable for them, but it's not for me. So I had to figure out what my lane is, what my comfortability is, and then just lean into it. And what I love is I've been encouraged to continue to do that. Like, the validation definitely helps, people pulling me to the side, whether it's a fan or whether it's a very highly respected, another artist that's like, yeah, nobody, like, the way you're doing this, keep doing, like, go find that, do more of it, give us more layered lines, give us more complexity, more, you know what I mean? So, um, and then it helps make it, palpable, and relatable, and authentic. Like, it really is me, but I rhyme a little more. Me, but I'm, again, intentionally looking for this kind of clever line, because I've been talking to y'all for 3-4 minutes. Let me, hit something to kind of get you, hit that reset or refill the, replenish, this paying attention, that y'all are gracious enough to be providing me. Because you could be going to, when we talk about a space, they could go to the bathroom, they could take that call, they could, they could do a
Right.
lot of things. But to give me that respect, I'm like, yeah, let me, let me talk with y'all, let me, share this information. That's another thing, between, it's that edutainment. Yeah, so let me, let's have some fun, let's learn a little bit, and again, yeah, do that in conversational form. That's just more natural to me. So,
Yeah, I love that, and learn about you through the process too, right? Like that's
absolutely.
that's the big piece, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that. But you took this your art to the next level with poetry. So you have your spoken word and you perform, and you actually recently had a what is it called? You were the primary person. I'm
Feature.
forgetting my words. Feature. Thank you. I was like, I'm forgetting my words. Sorry about that. You were the feature, and in a show. What was the show called? And you were the feature in a show, I know. And but also you have now taken it to the next level, where now you are actually interviewing others on your podcast called Smart Dumb Podcast. So tell me a little bit about Smart Dumb Podcast.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely feature. Shout out to Spit That out there in DC. An amazing, amazing honor to be among that prestigious, platform and all that. And it was a experience I'm just not sooner to forget. Like, thank you for not asking me about that, because I could go on for 45 minutes by itself on that. As far as the podcast, yes, it's called the Smart Dumb Podcast. Where did that name come from? It is a play off of a joke that Cat Williams made, and that's why you'll hear that in the very beginning. If you ever play, the episode, yes, for anybody, ain't nothing worse than a smart dumb, um, word we're not gonna say today. So that, but I was like, oh, I just like this name, the same way that, like, you know, uh, the way, like, Aloneatiq made sense to use for me, as a poet name, is like, oh, I gravitated towards that. Now, what do I do with the podcast? What is this purpose and, format and things like that? When I first got started, it was really it was almost an extension of poetry. Take not necessarily like the hottest topic trending, but just something, and knowing that I have an outlook that other people don't have. I got my unique experience. Okay, well, lean in on it, tap into it, share it. That type of thing. So that was, did that, and tend to be solo episodes. Not a fan of solo episodes, uh, as I feel like a lot of hosts, who do podcasts probably feel the
Mm.
same way. So there became an opportunity to interview, and I was focusing on interviewing individuals who are basically entrepreneurs, subject matter experts. So, I don't really, honestly, only recently would I say poets, excuse me, poets are the ones that have probably been interviewed the most, but it really kind of used to be more like, a author, like who's on the screen, and again, other various entrepreneurs of organizations I had already familiar with or didn't know about. And what is beautiful for me is like, regardless of who else is watching, I'm getting these gems just dropped in front of me to the point that I need to start going back and watching old episodes, although I don't want to because it's me and watching myself talk for it's very uncomfortable. But it's not about that. It's that other person I can, kind of lean in for that, you know what I mean, and pick up something that they said 3-4 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yes, the intro is pretty dope because it has Cat Williams speaking on the whole idea of being smart and dumb. But I I I agree with not wanting to go back and watch your own, but that idea of having gems dropped, like yes, yes, for sure, right? Like I love that a conversation can help you walk away with a tool that helps you to be a better person. What have been some of your big takeaways through the podcast?
Hmm. Um, one more recent is just revalidation. I I there's one particular there's one particular kind of, it's a poet, it's a friend of mine who was like, no, I'm really like listening to all of these. Like I'm subscribed, I'm watching, when it comes out, and it's like right now it's really, excuse me, that whole labor of love. The podcast really is just another layer of me. It's more speaking, practice, opportunity, all that type of stuff. So that's really, I'm good with it right there, and if whatever it may, lead to, but like I'm good with what it does for me right there. So um, that, hearing from somebody like, no, I'm actually looking for this, keep going, is a beautiful thing. Hearing other people's poetry, style and outlook and perspective is just, that always helps. It's like I'm the type, again, that I love learning, so soaking up, getting advice, taking what applies, leaving what doesn't, or respecting that other angle of a way to look at things. I'm definitely a fan of that. People that join are just as willing to share something, and give a takeaway as I am. So, you know, getting that, hey, I've been doing X for 5 years. So, XY for 5 years. So here's something, here's a gym that you don't need to take as long as I got to learn from it. To be motivated. Like even when I ask what's next, what do you have planned, and just feed off of the energy of like, oh, I like where your mind is moving. Let me go find my version of it. So um
Hmm.
yeah, it's just, it's like an informational interview, like, that we had fun with it, and they were more than happy to participate. They over here thanking me, and like we're, competing with each other with who that filled up more. So, or, who that was more fulfilling for. So I
I
say
love
that.
that, but and they're great conversations. I know, so I've watched some of the recent ones, and definitely you've had some amazing guests on. Some folks I know, some folks I don't know, but I got to know through your podcast, which is awesome. And Logic says, I saw, always watch your own work. So make sure you're doing that. Yes, and
Yeah.
that's for both of us, right? We got to go watch our own work, and it's good work, right? Like I
Yeah.
think like it's funny because I'm hearing in your voice like this reluctancy to take your flowers here, so I'm gonna give them to you again. Make sure you take them, JP, right? Which I love, is that it's making an impact, and people are coming on it to share their story for that reason, and walking away feeling filled for you, the fact that you create that space for them, and together, right, that conversation, which is awesome. So we talk about healing, and this is what this conversation has mainly been about, right, is this idea
Mhm.
of how do we heal. What is a truth about healing that you have walked away knowing better now in these past few years of really leaning into knowing yourself? Right.
Because it's
I
not a
think
game. These days, I can't take off. I just gotta take off because I can only afford to go. So if you see me tripping, bugging, or wilding, I finally got my ancestry test results back. It's Nigeria, Cameroon, Congo, places I could take a trip to see bugs in the wild. And if you was wondering why, I was just trying to get in touch with my roots. I already know I'm cut from a different cloth. Now, when I say get in touch with my roots, I don't mean an 8-hour marathon. Similar to it, I have a lot to say. I just don't say it in a lot of time. Rather, I say a lot in the time that I have, so I can no longer afford to play unless it's words with friends I made along this poetry journey. On the yellow brick road, the way I'm showing courage and bearing my heart, and as far as my brain, I tend to either perform out of my mind or struggle to get the right words out of me. So either way, I guess I'm a lost nigga like Loaded Lux's third round. Or I'm a lost N-word like edited Tom Sawyer books. Or I'm a lost boy like Mr. Cheeks the way I'm showing my ass. So I guess it's back to Africa like Nas. If I ruled it. Now if I try to go back and say I'm a lost one, am I too late? Are y'all following me? Are you sitting on that Lauren Hill with me? I can't stand. I can no longer afford to play, but if I play my cards right, I could be up in one of those African countries performing one day. And these days, I can't allow my monotone to be confused with mundane.
All right, so
Even though the wordplay in my poems
that?
is not the same, in this poem I already referenced words and play. So wordplay can get redundant if wordplay is the only thing that I'm known for, which is why I try to get straight to the point sometimes. For example, man, fuck that bitch. But no, fuck that shit. Because the other girl.
On that note, tell us a little bit about the event. It's all right. Like we are all things.
Right. No, and that's I was actually gonna think that I did a different. Okay, that was not my first. I'll briefly speak. The first that was pure poetry. Carmen DC, Orbital Poet, amazing platform, amazing experience. Right. The first poem that I ever did was like I got up there and I was on the the raffle and got the opportunity to be on that stage. I had a horrible day. I mean, probably weak, and it was just. I mean, it took a lot to even to get in the car and head in that direction. You know what I mean? Almost didn't get to sign up due to traffic getting there and all these types of things. So getting called up kind of gave me the opportunity to to just put that off to the side and focus on, okay, you got a piece that you need to share. And it went amazing. And if I didn't tell anybody that how I was feeling before I got up on the stage, nobody would have known. Like the footage for that is amazing. This particular clip was actually either right before or right after the election. We were in a very, interesting time based on what just had transpired in November, right? So um, the irony of that, very charged line near the end is the direction of that poem is, kind of not very pleased with being blatantly lied to and how deep that lie carried and how many, how much, basically I'm paying for it due to that. However, I was like I was ad-libbing basically, like that last part you were hearing where it was, nah, forget that. Like this is now me going in a different direction specifically because Black women have been through enough. Let me minimize. Like I'm still going to do this poem. I still have a message behind it. It's still not nobody's ever taken it as like you're just bashing and punching down. But let me even ease off from that a little bit. So I think I had freestyled into speaking of the election and how I really, personal opinion and view, I have a problem with the us's that voted that way. You know what I mean? So just stuff like that and just being aware and being, speaking socially on a current topic. Like I also like to do that too. So that was a very great experience, and glad I was able to get that out and share that with that audience.
I love that because I think what you speak on is the adaptability of performance, but sharing and just speaking. Like whenever you have a platform, you have to be adaptable. I mean, honestly, like just now, that's what we just had to do, right? We had a little hiccup. JP, we lost JP for a moment, but here we are. We adapted and we shifted, and that I can resonate with that feeling of like, things aren't going the way they need to go, and how we show up can often feel like, i don't, I don't know, like, can anybody tell how flustered I am, how much is going on inside me, right? Like, and it's funny because I think sometimes those are the moments where you show up your most authentic selves, and it actually is even more powerful. So it looks like obviously
Right.
that's what happened there, which is an awesome thing. Um, and as we're closing out now, we started to talk at the very top here about healing, and Phil Montaigne says, "True, definitely true," right? Um, and healing is really the end goal of these conversations. It's how do we get the tools to understand ourselves better, and truthfully to be able to be whole enough so that we can be fully authentically in our real self, right? Like without the mask, right? Without the anything. And you speak on that, but what
Right.
would you say
Absolutely.
is a truth about healing that you have walked away knowing better now than you probably did maybe 2 or 3 years ago, even?
Right. Right. Uh, I think the first and most important thing is something that maybe, that everybody's not willing to do, which is be honest with be honest with the weaknesses. So for me, how I'm able to move on is I don't sweep it under the rug. I acknowledge it and try to use, tools. I want to be more specific in the tools. So again, speak to a therapist when I need to get, when I feel like, talking through a situation might help. And sometimes that means, giving some details. I don't need to spill the whole thing. Sometimes I don't actually. Sometimes I've been like, you know what, I've dealt with a situation similar to this. I have, I kind of know what I need to do, and talking really isn't it. I know what the action needs to be. So for me, like, we are again, quite a few of us, and particularly Black community might want to again hide and suffer, and suppress those types of energy and emotions. But I feel like instead you should address it, and the sooner that you can address it, the sooner you truly have gotten past it, versus trying to just use time to quote unquote heal all wounds, which is absolutely inaccurate. And it gets proven when the trigger that you didn't know that you had pops up years later, and kind of and truly sets you back. And now you got to go solve it anyway. um, as far as, yeah, 2 to 3, um, whether it was 2 to 3 years ago, or even but slightly more, 4 to 5, no more than that. One of the major lessons that I learned is, uh, I'm compute as in IT, computer science, you input this, you output that for the most part. In life, it does not work like that. I was raised and encouraged to, with the whole, what we call respectability politics, do this, be that way, look this way, dress that way, and all this type of stuff. And then multiple times in major scenarios, the outlook was not, I'm sorry, the outcome was not at all what we wanted. And and even more recently, where it's not a directly good people get have good things happen to them, and people who are doing the quote unquote right thing are reaping positive benefits. So it's like, all right, the real world is not this. It's not the cotillion and botillion, type of situation. It's not private school and all that type of stuff. What something like, what glitters ain't, isn't what glitters isn't
Mhm.
always gold. Mess that up. So, yeah, that's these are again adapting. And one of the points with that is I rather have whatever result of being myself than pretending to be something else and not getting the result we were looking for. Like I'll take the negative result when it's myself. I can live with that. But like running around and doing what I was quote unquote supposed to do, and the supposed to didn't come back my way, is very infuriating. And I had to actively rebel or just decide like, no, that's not the way that we're going to go about this.
That's not the plan, right? Like that's not the plan. I love it. And that's such a full circle moment. So, to close us out with that, and that piece of recognizing that it's, there's a flow, and we got to be willing to move through that and move with it. And then,
if I can jump in with that, even don't be afraid. Yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like I'm gonna come up with another plan, in the near future that I thought made sense. Like I had great intentions, and that one's not gonna be it. And God will show me, So
absolutely, I love it. Thank you so much, JP, and thank you to all of our audience who chimed in and who is here. Thank you. I think I saw Whiskey Girl in here. Our iRant family was heavy. Yep. Thank you so much. Please make sure you follow JP. Also go check out his book as well, which is Aloneatiq is Different. It's on the link in everything down here. Make sure you subscribe, you like, and you share your comment. Thank you for joining us for a little bit of adaptive challenges with our technology today. But if you stayed with us, we appreciate you. And please make sure you tune in every Sunday for more conversations on turning our struggles into our strengths with pain to power. And remember that first decision to make that step towards healing, towards understanding yourself, towards moving towards your authenticity is the one that's going to take you where you need to be. And it might not be the plan, but it's going to be the plan. Thank you so much again, JP. Appreciate your time and your flexibility with our whole lags and technical issues. Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable. My world has slowly crumbled around me countless times, and every time I rebuild with the pieces I've been given to birth something so transformational and beautiful that no one else knew might exist before it was shown to them. These moments tend to coincide within my romantic path. The universe has been telling me to focus on the revolution and not romance. It has over time given me the tools, resilience, and light to turn my pain into power. And only now do I see that the key to this always resided in the love and knowing I had in myself, not from the external sources of family or men. The message I have been avoiding might be that my time in this world I had existed in was not to receive love, but to put it out there for others to see, feel, and heal through. Revolution before romance moves pain into power.